Hi everyone, thanks for joining us for this morning's Ag Report. Well, ranchers who graze on public lands are trying to make sense of a rule proposed by the BLM that would make conservation a land use under federal law and employ a system of conservation leasing. Public Lands Council Executive Director Caitlin Glover told me that the BLM has a lot of questions to answer on this proposal. She said conservation and land health are outcomes that are already preserved by livestock grazing, and she said this rule upends the agency's multiple use mandate.
By seeking to elevate conservation as a use, the agency has created this potential artificial hierarchy in their land management decision-making that puts conservation, this abstract concept, on the same or actually elevated position as any other multiple use. Replacing multiple use for abstract concepts of conservation, ultimately it's not going to improve land health.
Well, the American Farm Bureau, National Cattlemen's, National Corn Growers and Pork Producers Associations wrote a letter to the Securities and Exchange Commission telling the agency that family farmers and ranchers should not be subject to the same rules as publicly traded companies. A rule proposed by the SEC would require such companies to report all emissions across their supply chains, which would undoubtedly include all farmers and ranchers. The groups wrote that the tracking would be expensive, invasive, and burdensome, and would provide little to no environmental benefits. Thanks for joining us this morning. We're going to come back and talk about the surging cattle market.
We asked Montana farmer Walt Sales about the challenges of mental health in agriculture.
Another drought, there always is. There's always going to be another something. I grew up in a generation of you pulled yourself up by your bootstraps, but it's become evident is what do you do if you can't even find those bootstraps? If you need to talk to somebody, go to beyondtheweather.com for free counseling for Montana ag producers.
Hi everyone, thanks for joining us back here for the Ag Market Report. The last 3 weeks, cash-fed cattle prices have been surging higher, up $16. That's more than $200 per head. Last week we saw that cash market hit a new record high on the average at $180.44, a new top at $186. Analysts are noting that packers are trying to grab all the inventory they can right now as supplies are expected to only tighten going forward. CattleFax says that new highs will be set across all classes, and they add the historical relationship between feeder futures and fall calf prices would imply 550-pound steer prices in the upper 240s to 260. And that's not to say this market won't see some weakness, especially as we move into this summer, but it's looking pretty strong, and those fed cattle prices getting help from box beef that's at its highest level since September of 2021. At Faith Livestock, we saw some cow-calf pairs sell with very impressive prices ranging $3,160 to $3,400, and strong demand for heiferettes too, with a lot of them from $155 to $175. A light test of new crop lambs at Pays saw 60 to 90 pounders from $225 to $241, and the wheat futures ignored the crop progress report that kept winter wheat conditions at 27% good to excellent, the worst in over 30 years, and spring wheat planting is starting to fall behind as well. On Tuesday, the wheat saw losses of 3 to 8 cents. Well, that's going to do it for this morning's report. Thanks so much for joining us. Have a good one.